Let's go ahead and we'll get started. And what we can do, so Tim's going to record this. So for the students who didn't tune in, we'll send them the video. We'll put it on our YouTube page, and we can send this to both of you as well if you wanted it for your own methods of sending it out to students if you are interested in doing that. But we'll record this. But because we only have 2 students right now, it's going to be very intimate. So the 2 of you are really going to be able to ask whatever questions you have personally. But we are going to record this session. So if you have something that you want to know more on a personal level, you might want to email one of us and then we'll get that question answered. But feel free to talk to us openly since there is only 2 of you here. So let's go with introductions. You already are familiar with me and Tim. So why don't we turn it over to Michelle to give a little introduction about herself, and then we'll turn it to Alex.
Well, hello, I'm Michelle Gonzalez, and I am the Assistant Director over in the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. I oversee the Foundation Scholarship Awards, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I also oversee our advising and customer service team, and I do all of the outreach. So I get the opportunity to have these fun discussions with students and parents across many venues, to help them understand the financial aid process and to really just be able to capitalize on all the opportunities that are out there. So I'm excited that you guys decided to join us today, and I'm here to help with any questions you may have.
And I'm Alex. I work in undergraduate admissions, Alex Martinson, and I'm a local recruiter. So I know both of your high schools. I've visited you guys before. Big fans. So anyways, both of your schools do provide us with a lot of students, and it's exciting just to chat with you, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity. But my expertise is kind of the application process, the admission side of things, and then of course I even touch on the next steps for enrollment and things like that for seniors who would be applying to us. So I know that you might have a couple years yet even in this process, but still I want to make sure that you are comfortable or at least understanding of that process.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So what we're going to do today, you're going to hear from both of these experts. We'll start with admissions, and then we'll turn it over to financial aid. And at the very end, you're going to hear from me to talk more about the College of Education so that you know the steps once you are an FGCU student, what it's going to take to complete your program and go into the education world with your career. So I'll start with Alex first. You can kind of go into what you want to talk about admissions related. And then once Alex is finished, Michelle, you're welcome to jump in.
Thanks, Lauren. Well, again, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you folks today. The biggest thing is with the application is that we want to make sure that you know exactly what is needed beforehand, just so that it's not a mystery, right? I want to demystify the application process, at least the FGCU. It's not all that difficult. And as long as you know what to expect going into it, it's pretty straightforward. And obviously, folks like myself and admissions are here to help you with that process if you do have any questions. So basically, there are 3 things as a high school senior that you need to submit. The first is the application. We can accept applications both through Common App, if you're familiar with Common App, or through our website, fgcu.edu. Okay, that's a kind of our own proprietary app. Either one is entirely fine. I understand that if you're applying to multiple universities, you may want to use Common App. At the same time, I personally think our FGCU app is a little bit easier. It's probably a little bit faster. So either way will work. There is a $30 application fee. And once you pay or you cover the application fee either through your own means or through your application fee waiver, if you qualify for a fee waiver, that means your application is submitted. That would be step 1, okay? Once the application is submitted, now we have a file started for you here at the university. So you receive what we call a university ID number, or your UIN. This is your magical number that if you have questions about anything to do with your enrollment, you send to us, we can look you up quickly, and we can get you what information you need, okay? Once we have that application submitted, we start that file. The 2 other things that we need are official SAT or ACT scores, okay? And we do super score, so we will take either one or both. I personally think if you are trying to maximize your likelihood of admission and for scholarships, you should submit all of your test scores to us. Let us determine what are the most, competitive test scores, for admission for scholarships, but submit everything you have to us, and it has to be done through College Board for SAT or ACT. So we need those scores sent directly from the testing organization. You can't send me an email with your tests. As much as I'd love to have self-reported test scores right now, it's not in the card. So official test scores. And then the last piece of that puzzle is the high school transcript. And this goes for anywhere you've taken high school courses. So if you took, if you transferred schools halfway through your high school career, we do need transcripts from both. Excuse me. And once we have official test scores, or the other option is the SAR, the self-reported student academic record. We are still accepting the SAR. And for those of you who are familiar, that's basically a way to self-report your classes and your grades. So you can take a look at a transcript from your high school, and you can input your classes and grades in there, and we will accept that as what we call preliminary transcript in order to get an admissions decision. Our application opens up August 1st. So it's coming up, right? A couple weeks here, the application already opens for fall 2021. So once the application opens, we have a period that we call early action. Early action just means that if you apply during this time, you're going to hear from us before essentially the holiday break in December. And the deadline for early action is November 1st, okay? November 1st is also our deadline for admission scholarships that we call Merit Award, which I'm going to talk about just briefly and then pass things on to Michelle. But the early action deadline means that you will have an admissions decision by that holiday break in December. It's nice to be able to know whether or not you're admitted, or at least know what it is that we would need from you in order to, strengthen your application, things like that. So that is my recommendation. Again, application opens up August 1st. You do not need to have taken the SAT or the ACT in order to apply. I understand that lots of students have not had the opportunity yet to test. So it's very important that you understand you can submit your application August 1st, right? You do not need to have taken the SAT or ACT. Get your application in and submitted before any kind of priority deadlines, and then follow up with those other materials, being your official test scores and your transcript or your SAR, okay? Real quickly, I did want to share my screen here just so that you can see the Merit Award that I'm about to talk about here. For Florida residents, we have President's Gold and President's Silver. And then for out-of-state students, we have Blue and Green Scholars and Blue and Green Directors Award. And President's Gold and Blue and Green Scholars Award have the same criteria, as well as President's Silver and Blue and Green Directors Award. So again, these are in-state versus out-of-state, but you can see here the criteria are listed here on the right-hand side. So for President's Gold and Blue and Green Scholars, it is required that you have a 3.9 weighted GPA or higher, with either a 1320 on the SAT or a 28 on the ACT. And we do super score for those. But we need to have your scores and everything submitted by November 1st, again, for that early action period. And then for the next tier down, President's Silver, and if you're out of state, Blue and Green Directors Award, that would be a 3.5 weighted GPA or higher, with a 1220 SAT or a 25 on the ACT. And again, we super score for those. So that is just a little bit about the Merit Award. Again, I don't want to steal too much from Michelle here, but those are stackable. Those scholarships are stackable. She's got a great pancake analogy here coming up, I hope. And it just means that we are able to take scholarships and stack them on top of each other. So we try to maximize your financial aid and resources here at FGCU. So I know that's a kind of a whirlwind tour of admissions and everything there. The application, again, available on fgcu.edu. You just click the apply button at the top, or Common App, but that's how we get the ball rolling. And again, my name's Alex Martinson. If you need anything, especially for you local students here, I am your recruiter, and I'm happy to help you in whatever way I can.
All right, well, I guess that means I'm up. Alex, I was going to leave the pancake analogy out this time.
Oh, no.
You've heard it so many times.
My favorite.
But I will put it back in just for you. Well, I am a visual learner, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here because that's how I learn best. So hopefully this will help you all as well. So let's go ahead and do this. So today I'm just going to give you a little bit about our office, and I'm going to just go over briefly 5 steps to maximize your aid. And I'm going to give you some information on our social media content, and then Alex and I are going to take any questions that you may have. So our office is open and available to you. Our staff is dedicated. They have tons of experience. There's not a situation that we have not run into. So if you're having help or you need have questions filling out the FAFSA, maybe you don't understand a question, you can call our office and we'll help you. We'll walk you through the process. We'll walk you through applying for aid. We also participate in FAFSA workshops at different high schools and that. So if you need help, I want you to know that we're here. We also have several staff members who are fluent in Spanish. So if your family and you or your preferred language is Spanish, we can accommodate that as well. So I want you to feel comfortable reaching out to us. Even though we're working remote now during this time, we still have the availability for you to contact our office. We have phone appointments. You can contact us via email, and we will be reopening for in-person as long as you wear a mask and you come in and visit us. So if you need to reach our office, our website is www.fgcu.edu/financial aid. And right at the top of that page is the way you can contact us. So if you ever have a question, just go ahead and reach out to us at any time. We're here to help you. So I want to go over 5 steps to maximize your aid. And for Alex, this one's for you. I want you to think of a pancake, because everything that I'm going to talk about here, all of these 5 opportunities can be stacked together. They are not exclusive. You get one, you can't get the other. No, all of these opportunities can be stacked together so that you can get the best aid package that you can get, so that you end up at the end of the day not having to borrow loans, not having to pay out of pocket, and to be able to fund your education completely. So these are inclusive, so you can get all 5 of these, okay? So we're gonna go through all of these different opportunities. Alex already kind of talked about step 1, so I'm really not gonna go over this too much, but it's just, your first step is to apply for admissions to FGCU, making sure you do that by that priority deadline of November 1st, so you get that automatic consideration for those merit scholarships. They are very generous scholarships, and they really help cover the cost of tuition. So you don't want to apply late and then not be considered for those. So that's step 1, is just apply to our university. Step 2 is complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. This is the largest source of financial aid. All students are eligible for some sort of financial aid. It can be a combination of grant aid, which is the Pell Grant, the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, as well as our institutional grants. So we use the FAFSA to determine if you qualify for money from the financial aid office, okay? There's also self-help aid, which is work study. Work study is an employment program where if you work, you get paid. It gives you the opportunity to get some really good work experience so that when you go out into the workforce, you have letters of recommendation, you have a resume that you can put out there, and you show that you're someone that can be counted on in the skills that you've applied. And then there's what we call the loans. So there's a different combination of the loans, and hopefully by these other steps, you will never need to access those loans, but they're automatically awarded to you just for completing the FAFSA. So you always want to do that FAFSA. It always opens on October 1st. So when you're a senior in August 1st, you're going to be filling out that admissions application. And then October 1st, you're going to be filling out that FAFSA. And you want to do it as early as you possibly can. You'll be using, if you're my seniors that are out there right now, you're looking at fall 2021. So you're always using taxes that are 2 years behind your start year. So if you're a fall 2021 student, you're going to be using 2019 taxes. If you're a junior now and you're going to be starting in fall of 2022, you'd be using 2020 taxes. So you're always it's called prior year. So you're always going to be, so you already have these taxes, they're available. So there's no reason why you should wait and not do that FAFSA immediately. Some of the funding from the federal government and the state government and institutional aid is limited. There's not enough for everyone. Loans and Pell Grants are entitlement. If you qualify for it, you get it. But some of these other programs are limited. And it goes based on if you qualify and when you applied for financial aid. So you want to be at the front of that line. So do that application as early as possible. The third is if you're from the state of Florida, is apply for Florida student aid. And many students know this as the Bright Futures application. But there are so many other programs through the state other than Bright Futures. Yes, Bright Futures is the largest program. It's a merit program through the state, but there are a lot of others as well. They have need-based aid, which is the Florida Student Assistance Grant. They have a first-generation matching grant, which means if you are the first generation in your family to go to college like I was, it means that neither of your parents have earned a bachelor's degree. They could have attended some college. They could have maybe even gotten an associate's degree or maybe went to a technical school. If they don't have a bachelor's degree, you are a first-generation college student and can be considered for that first-generation matching grant. They also have programs for teachers. They have programs for students who have a parent who is deceased or disabled. So there are a lot of other programs through the state other than Bright Futures. You can only fill this application out in your senior year. So you don't want to miss that application, because if you come to us and now you're getting ready to start the fall and we're like, well, did you do this? You would have qualified for this and it's too late to submit the application. So that's also going to open in October. So make sure you're doing that, Mark. Make sure that you're always applying for Florida student aid, even if you don't think you're a Bright Futures candidate, because there are so many other aid programs. So you don't want to miss out on that. Step 4 is apply for our foundation scholarship. So to make things easy for you, I bet you can't guess what date that opens. It's October 1st. So our FGCU Foundation is our private fundraising arm of the university. And we awarded $4 million in scholarships last year. And this fund continues to grow. New scholarships are added all of the time. And we have merit awards, which are based on your high school academic performance, okay? We don't look at ACT or SAT scores. So if you're someone who is not a great test taker, but you have a GPA of above a 3.0, you can be considered for our merit awards. And then you have need-based awards, which are based on the information provided on your FAFSA. What is your expected family contribution? And that, even though you may not qualify for a Pell Grant from the FAFSA, you could still have financial needs. So that's why we encourage all students to complete a FAFSA, because you could get institutional aid or one of our foundation scholarships. And we have some of our scholarships are specifically earmarked because our donors recognize the importance and the value of teachers, and they want to help fund and create new teachers. So there are scholarships just for students in the teaching profession. So you want to make sure that you do that scholarship and really spend time on the essay portions of it. Really explain, it's going to ask you why you chose the field that you've chosen. What type of teacher do you want to be? You want to put that all in there so that the donors who are reading these can really connect with you and understand where you're coming from. And any other special circumstances or things that you want us to know about, so that when the donors are reading these, they can get that connection with you. And then step 5 is apply for outside scholarships. Apply for everything and anything, small and big, okay? We have students that receive, I think the most I've seen, because I process all of them, is a student had 14 outside scholarships. And some were only 300 or 500, but when you have that many of them, they really, really add up. So you want to, check with your guidance officer at your school. Your school may have a scholarship application. They may have links to other scholarships. Check with you or your parent's employer. Okay, there's a lot of employers like Starbucks and Publix and Chipotle, who gives scholarships. So you want to make sure that if you're involved with a religious or community organization, start with things that are local. Those are the best ones to start with because you have a smaller pool. And then you want to look at community foundations. So community foundations, again, are local scholarships to your area. So if you're here right around our area, we have the Southwest Florida Community Foundation. We have the Charlotte Community Foundation. We have the Community Foundation of Collier County. We have the Immokalee Foundation. So if you're not in this immediate area, you can find a list of all of these outside scholarship opportunities, our internal scholarships, our foundation scholarships, and links to all the community foundations in the state of Florida and across the United States on our website. So that's fgcu.edu/scholarships. It's a beautiful page that we built so that you have that information. And then you want to go to national websites for looking for scholarships, but always starting with things that you're already a part of. And then look, there's a lot of places and scholarships available for teachers, because we recognize the value and the importance and the needs for teachers, and there are teacher shortages. So there are some scholarships out there from school districts who will fund your education, and in exchange for you signing a contract where you agree to teach for them. So just make sure that you're looking for these opportunities. I know Lee County has some of these already, and we're starting to see more and more of this. So, always just keep applying. It's not something you're just going to do in your senior year. Juniors, you can start now too. A lot of these community foundations will let you start your applications now. Some of them are open to you as a junior. The bulk of it will be done your senior year. So you're going to start this summer. For those who are coming into being a senior, a lot of those applications at the community foundations are opening now. So before you get busy with your senior activities and your senior year, start that process now over the summer. So there's just a whole host of opportunities that are out there. And when we partner these, I just want to share some stats with you about how well our students do and what they have. We awarded over $10 million in Bright Futures. We processed over $2 million in outside scholarships. So our students are applying for and receiving those outside scholarships. We gave out over $4 million in foundation scholarships. Alex's team gave out $7 million in admissions merit scholarships. And our Pell-eligible students, if you're from the state of Florida and you complete your FAFSA by our priority deadline of January 1st, you're not going to pay any tuition out of pocket in most cases, because we're able to come in there with those other aid programs and help reduce your tuition to zero, okay? And 52% of our Eagles, that includes in-state, out-of-state, on-campus, off-campus, all of our students, 52% graduate with no student loan debt. So we are extremely, extremely proud of that. And we work very hard to make sure that we maximize all of the aid for our students and really make it affordable. But you need to help us by completing your applications on time, and you do them early, get them in, so that when it comes to awarding, we can give you that best package. I also want to encourage you to, follow our office on social media. We're fun. We have contests. But we also post scholarship opportunities. We let you know when applications are open. You can DM us and we'll respond to your questions there. So we're very, very reachable and approachable. We're not on Snapchat yet, so no TikToks, but we do post crazy videos of our office. So we have a lot of fun, but we're also informative. But we want you to know that we're here. You can get an answer from our office at any time. And I'm here and Alex is here, so any questions you may have, we'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, students, so you can either be brave and come on the video and ask the questions, or you can put them in the chat. So we'll give you a few minutes to kind of ask some questions. I know it can take some time to chat in the box, so we'll give you a minute.
Alex, we did such a great job. They have no question.
I
I
learn
think they're
something from you
shy.
every time, Michelle. So I don't doubt that.
Same with you, Alex. I feel the same way every time. Sometimes you just need to hear something a couple of times and it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was taking notes when you were talking. I'm like, oh, August 1st, application.
So I'll ask a question
Sure.
just to get this started, because I know a lot of students inquire about transferring. So if they started at FSW, for example, and they wanted to transfer, what is the likelihood that they'll be admitted? Is there programs for them? Can you talk a little bit about that just briefly?
Yeah, in terms of the admissions process, we kind of break it down by how many credits that a student comes in with. So I got a question this morning, at what point can I transfer? The answer to that is you can transfer at any time to FGCU. It's just the admissions criteria is determined by the number of transferable college credits that you have. Now, that's not to be confused with a student who is in high school who is dual enrolled, right? And we get that often. A student is coming in with a certain number of dual enrollment credits, or even perhaps their Associate of Arts. Maybe they've earned their AA while they're in high school. That is awesome. However, we do not consider you a transfer student until you earn 12 credits post high school graduation. So if you're a senior in high school, you've got your AA, you're applying to FGCU, we still consider you a freshman, and Michelle can attest to this because we need to consider you a freshman in terms of scholarship eligibility and things like that. So that's a little bit about the process, but in terms of transferring, once you hit 30 credits, which is kind of like the magic number, then we no longer evaluate high school GPA or test scores. So that would be what we call a mid-level transfer. So if you're not admitted to FGCU on your first try, right, don't be discouraged. There are multiple pathways to becoming an Eagle. And I always want to make sure that students stay encouraged about that because that's really important. Once you hit those 30 credits, then we need a 2.5 college GPA or higher. And you need to have a C or higher in both a college math and college English course. That's a mid-level transfer. If you decide to do what we call destination FGCU, which is where we partner with a lot of our local state colleges or community colleges, once you earn your Associate of Arts, essentially you're guaranteed admission as long as you're in good academic standing, you meet all the criteria for an associate's degree, and then you can come in and we will work with you. Our academic advising is great about trying to get you right in to pick up right where you left off.
Awesome, thank you. And I know I get this question a lot. It's not necessarily about the application process, but if I'm a local student, am I required to live on campus?
It's a quick answer. No, you're not. We do recommend that you live on campus, obviously. And I think one thing about that this pandemic has taught us is that FGCU's housing, it's always been desirable. We're ranked top 10 in the United States for our on-campus housing, but the ability to close the door to your own bedroom, have your own space, your own privacy, your own security, that is huge with a lot of families and students who are interested in living on campus. So the short answer is no, you don't have to. Of course, we recommend it. Almost a third of our entire enrollment lives on campus, which is a fairly high percentage, I think, for a university of our size. So if you haven't seen South Village, that's of course where freshmen would live. And then, upperclassmen live at North Lake Village. Both are beautiful areas. North Lake has has Miramar Lake, our freshwater beach on campus. There's lots to brag about in terms of FGCU housing, but I think the best thing you can do for yourself is to see it firsthand, which we're very excited to be offering tours. We're going to be opening that back up with certain precautions and things like that, but we will have tours, I think, starting this fall. So very exciting stuff.
And if I could just add to that, as many of you know, a lot of us have been saying the whole time, we're FGCU grads. We went to FGCU, and I had that experience. I highly recommend living in South Village, or we like to call it Sovie all the time, for your freshman year, because it's the only chance you get to live there. Once you're an upperclassman, you can't live there anymore. You have to live either in North Lake or Westlake or off campus somewhere if that's what you choose. The people that I met my first semesters in college in South Village were the people who were my college friends throughout my entire experience at FGCU and who are still some of my best friends today. So I highly recommend that. You won't get to find an environment like that really, I think, again, in your college experience. So don't miss out on that opportunity is what I have to say about that.
And Alex, I have a question. I'm not sure if you can answer it. And I know we have Hannah, who is going to be a senior. So given that we are under this new, I don't know, thing with the pandemic and tests and things are not always offered, or they're full if they are being offered, what are we doing with SAT and ACT if students aren't able to take that test before, let's say, the end of this first semester? Do we have anything, or do you know about anything?
It's a great question. The first thing I'll say is I think it's kind of a dynamic situation. I don't have exact details for you right now. My understanding is that we are still going to require an SAT or an ACT. We have not gotten the go-ahead to be a test optional university. I know that that term gets tossed around quite a bit in admissions. Some schools are test optional. Currently, we are still requiring SAT or ACT. That is subject to change. And maybe, if you're viewing this video months after, it could already be established. So be sure to check our admissions page for updates. That's the best place, the best resource for students for sure. But as of right now, the biggest takeaway message, and I know I mentioned it earlier in my presentation, but students can apply to FGCU. They can submit the application without test scores. So that's what I would encourage students to do now. Don't let, the fact that you haven't taken tests yet prohibits you from applying early and getting in before any of these priority deadlines, right? Again, the application opens up August 1st. If you're a rising senior, get your application in, get it taken care of, get it off your plate, and then we'll work with you on whatever other materials we need. That's a great question though, Lauren.
Yeah, because we're getting that a lot because for education, they're required to take some tests. And so we're running against some challenges with that as well. So I thought I would ask you what we're doing with ACT and SAT. So I'm waiting for students to ask questions. I'm just going to keep asking them about things that I've gotten questions about. So Michelle, for financial aid, when I talk to students, this is kind of my experience too when I was going to college, my assumption was maybe my parents made too much money and I wouldn't qualify for any federal aid. So what would you say to a student that's kind of like, I don't think I should fill out the FAFSA, or I'll never get any financial aid, or whatever their circumstance might be, but they don't plan on completing the FAFSA? What would you say to a student?
Do it anyway. The reason is a lot of times assumptions are wrong, and the federal formula is very complex, and it takes into account so many variables, like how many people in your household, how many people are in college, the age of the older parent, how close they are to retirement, where the source of the income is coming from, how much taxes you paid, how much money your family made, how many assets. It takes into so many different things that you can't account for. And so you should do it anyway. And it also then opens the door, like I had talked about before. Yes, you may not get that Pell Grant from the federal government, but now it opens the door because you're in that middle income range, and we can say, you have some unmet need. Now we can do some institutional funds. We can also consider you for our foundation scholarships, not just the merit ones, but now you have access to the need-based ones as well. So I always encourage all students to do that every year, and you never know when your family's situation will change. So yes, at the time in October, maybe you're not eligible and you're only eligible for loans, but something could happen throughout the year, especially we've seen this with this pandemic. People have lost their jobs. People have died, okay? And what we're basing this on 2018 taxes, and I talked about we're 2 years behind when you actually go to school, what information we're using. So a lot of things can happen in that period of time, and you have the ability to appeal. If you've had a significant change in your family, of a death, a divorce, a job loss, Those are things that can be appealed, but you can't appeal if you didn't do the FAFSA originally. So I always would tell everyone, regardless of your situation, do the FAFSA, because you don't know what you could be eligible for. And we found this out this summer we had the CARES emergency grant funding that was given out by the federal government. And in order to qualify for that grant, students needed to be Title IV aid eligible. And the quickest way to figure that out was to file a FAFSA. So students would complete the application for this emergency grant, and we're like, we don't know if you qualify because we can't determine your eligibility. Go out and do the FAFSA, and then we'll be able to see that you're eligible. And when they did that, they were eligible for a ton of other aid that they didn't get because they didn't fill it out. And for some of them, if they were enrolled in summer, we could retroactively give it to them. So never make an assumption, because you may be assuming something that's wrong. And the FAFSA is so easy to complete. They have a built-in IRS data retrieval tool, which will go pull your information directly from the IRS and transfer it. It's not a very hard process. I know that's the misnomer that's out there. So my thing is just do it anyway. You know, it's a rite of passage for college. You should do it anyway.
I see Yanai is having some problems with her technology, as we've experienced that this week. I think everyone's had some sort of issue. So if you have a question, Yanai, you can type it in the chat box if you're having a hard time staying on the call. I'm going to keep asking some financial aid questions that I know students typically ask me. One of them is about parents. So I know that, you know, when you're filling out the FAFSA, it does ask you for parent information. And I do have a lot of parents and students that have concerns about having the parent information on the FAFSA, and they're worried that it's going to somehow come back to the parent. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and give the students some tools to kind of talk openly with their parents about the financial aid process.
Absolutely. And this is one of the concerns. And I know, like I mentioned, I was a first generation college student many years ago, but my parents had that same concern because they were not familiar with the process. They didn't understand it. And they felt that they were somehow going to be liable for something, that they were going to be responsible for something. All the parents' information does is help determine your eligibility. It in no way makes the parent responsible for any of the aid. It's federal student aid. So it is the student's aid. The parents' our income and information is only used to determine your eligibility, but it is the student's aid. So any loans that are offered, any grants that are offered, everything is in the student's name. So the parents have no responsibility other than because the student, in most cases, under the age of 24, is not married, does not have a dependent that they support more than 50%, is not a veteran, is not an orphan or ward of the court, or has some other unusual situation where parents are not involved. The federal government under law requires parental information on the FAFSA. So you can't proceed to process your financial aid without that information. But if you ever have a situation like that and you're not really, your parents are a little resistant, we're happy to do a conversation with you and your parent and explain the process, because most times once they understand, they're fine with it. And I know this also a lot of times comes up when the parents may not be legal residents of the United States and are living here, so they have immigration concerns. The FAFSA process does not look at that. It does not look at, what your parent status is. They're not, they're not in any jeopardy that way. It's just looking at the income, okay? So if your parents don't have social security numbers, the FAFSA has a built-in process, just put all zeros. It's part of the FAFSA process. So if you ever have a situation like that and there's some resistance there, we have advisors. We'll meet with you and your parents and we'll explain the process. And 99% of the time, once they understand it, they're willing to provide the information.
I'm on mute. Hello, I'm talking to myself. Thank you, Michelle. Tim, I see some questions coming up in the chat, and I think that you can answer the first one since you lived at FGCU.
So the chat, I'm having a problem bringing up the chat. That's so funny. I didn't even see it.
I will read it to you.
These are good questions.
So how is it living on campus without your parents to look over you? How do you get out of your shell and make friends? So Tim, talk a little bit about
Okay.
that, because I know you had that experience personally.
Yes. So, so I'm not a housing expert, but I have the experience of living in housing. So I'll just share my experience. But I will say, if you have a lot more questions, you probably should reach out to housing. Um, so at least in SOVI, the freshman residence halls, to meet friends, it's very easy because it's sort of like I don't want to say it. It's almost like you're living in a big hotel full of your friends. Your door is right next to someone else's door. Um, and you really only have like your room. So a lot of the times people on my hall, we'd all have our doors open. You'd just be yelling from your room into someone else's room saying, "Hey, what are you doing? Oh, we're doing this," that kind of thing. So the people who are on your hall, you're really gonna get to know. um, you'll do things together as a group. You'll discover things on campus together, that kind of thing. Also, um, they have what's called RAs, or resident assistants, who I believe, if I remember correctly, like each wing or hall has one RA, and so they're an upper level student who is somebody who is going to be, at least mine was that way anyway. They're kind of like, they can become like a mentor to you, show you the ropes. If you have any questions, you can go to them. They sort of look over your hall, make sure everybody's safe. They're the person who's sort of enforcing the rules, making sure you're not doing anything that'll get you into trouble, that kind of thing. And they're hired through. Lauren's raising her eyebrows. Um, and so and they're hired through housing. Um, so it's all through FGCU. Um, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if I fully answered the question.
Yeah, I think you
But
did. I think you
yeah,
did.
so you don't have
Mhm.
to be, you don't have to be worried about, if you're worried about, oh, I'm leaving my parents, I don't really know. There's going to be systems in place to help you succeed in housing.
Yes. And the next question was about sororities and fraternities and getting involved and meeting people. We have sororities and fraternities. And if you don't live on campus, or you do live on campus, the best way to meet people is to get involved, attend events, get out there. I talked a little bit about this during our alumni panel. The misconception, I think, sometimes when you're a local student going to FGCU is that you're going to know people. And you may know people because a lot of people locally go to FGCU, but you might not even see them. So the best way to meet people and get out there and enjoy your college experience is to really get involved. And that's what I did when I was at FGCU. I got involved and I had a ton of friends and people that I saw on campus, and it made me feel more at home. So that's really the best way to meet people, is to get involved, to go to events. There's lots of things going on all the time. So if you just walk around campus, you'll see something going on, get involved. That's the best way to have the most fun and maximize your experience.
There's always something happening on the library lawn, and it's always like, what is this? Let me just go walk over and find out what it is. To add to that, I will say there's also, um, you're saying get involved. There's more than just fraternities and sororities. I think we have something like over 300 registered student organizations or clubs, and there's a club out there for everything. So whatever you're interested in, there's probably already a club for it, and if there's not, you just need, I think, 3 other people to start a club for it. Um, so definitely, I would say, like Lauren said, get involved in something, and you'll always be busy. You'll always meet new people, that kind of thing.
They can join my favorite club, the Quidditch Club.
Yeah, there you go. I
Hey,
think
if you
there's
like
even
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I think there's even a club that's called like the Try New Things Club, and they just find things that no one's done before, and they all try it together. It's pretty cool.
So
Um,
we have two more questions
that's
on
okay.
here. One is about the Teach Grant and one is about SAT scores.
Hmm.
So let's go to financial aid real quick and ask about the Teach Grant, because we are talking to potential future educators, and the Teach Grant is something that only qualifies to them. So Michelle, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Teach Grant is a funding through the federal government that helps to, again, recognize the importance and the need for teachers. So it is a grant that students can get when they're in their upper level courses. It is currently $4,000 per year. And students, what they do is they'll have to fill out an application. You do need to be accepted to the department, which Lauren's going to talk about a little bit when we're done with the question and answer period. Then you fill out a application for the Teach Grant. And then every semester you do need to fill out an agreement to serve. So basically they're giving you this grant with the expectation that you will then become a teacher and actually be in a classroom in one of the underserved populations in areas, okay? If you fail to fulfill the terms of the grant, it then becomes a loan that you do have to repay with interest. So, but it is a fantastic opportunity for those of you who know and are dedicated into going into the teaching field to help get your education, again, paid for through the grant, so that you are going to be one of those eagles that come out with no loan debt. So it is a wonderful opportunity. I mean, I think we, continue to recognize the need for teachers. So we have a lot of great information on that grant on our website. It's just definitely something to take advantage of, but that would be available for like your junior and senior year. It would not be available for the first 2 years.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that's a great opportunity for students who know they're going to teach. So if you are already committed and you know that's what you want to do, keep that in mind for your junior year. And we'll talk about admissions into the college and things like that when we're done with Q&A here. So Alex, this one is for you. If you have an SAT score from last year, but you're going to take another one this year, can you send your application with the first scores and then send the second scores later?
It's a great question. And the answer is yes, you can submit your application with your previous score, with no scores, with all your scores. We just want your application. So submit it with what you have currently. There's actually a section on the application. My understanding is that there's a date picker. You can select your date on a calendar for a future test. So if you know, hey, I'm signed up for the September ACT, you can indicate that on your calendar, and then we know that you're going to have a future test score coming in. So that's another way to kind of communicate with us in regard to test scores. But please, yeah, don't hold off on your application just for your future test scores. Send us your application. That at least gets the ball rolling. Good question.
Any other questions
So
for these two?
I can see the chat now. I don't know why it wasn't letting
Yay!
me, yeah, look at it before. And I don't know if this got answered while I was trying to find it, but Unai asked, is it easy finding your way around campus?
Mm.
And so, I mean, I will just say it's pretty easy. Of course, you're going to come into a new environment. You might not know on your first day where everything is. But campus is basically just like a big loop. And a lot of main campus is inside that loop. And then student housing is sort of on the outside in certain areas. And there's also some other things on the outside, like some auxiliary buildings and stuff like that. But everything is really sort of like main campus, all the academic buildings, a lot of the student support areas are all sort of in this main campus bubble. And it's not that big, so you can walk around really easy, or bike or skateboard, whatever you see fit. And we've got campus maps on the website, so.
Anything else? Okay, so I'm going to say thank you to Alex and Michelle for helping us today with admissions. Send out, with your permission, your contact information. That way, if they do have anything personal that they want to ask or follow-up questions, they can send them to you. And of course, I'm always available to triage those things too. So since you all have my contact information, you're welcome to send me the question and I can forward it off to one of these two to help. So thank you so much, guys. You're welcome to stay and listen to my presentation if you want to. If not, you're welcome to go ahead and return back to work. I'm sure on a Friday you're very busy in the afternoon. So thank you so much for all of your help today.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye, guys. So now that we've talked a little bit about coming into the university, and what it's like to apply through that process, and financial aid initially. So just so you know, I don't know if Michelle mentioned it, with financial aid, you have to apply through the FAFSA every single year. So it's not just something that you do the first year. And even if you don't qualify the first year, the second year could be different. And so I want to make sure you all know that that's something you do every single year. So we're very thankful that we had the two of them to talk about that initial coming into the university process, because as the College of Education, you see me out at your schools talking to you in your teacher academies, and I'm here to help you, but I am not on that application side. So I'm not the person that really reviews your application, and I don't really see when you apply, so I don't always know where you're at in the process. So that's why it's good to have that contact like Alex, who is the person who will be seeing your application and helping you through that process, and Michelle on the financial aid side. But of course, everyone that you see here is here to help you, so we can always point you in the right direction if you need it. So let's talk about once you're an FGCU student, so once you are officially an Eagle, you know, and you have decided you want to do education as a major, you would be considered a pre-major initially coming into the university. So the way that the College of Education works is you're not really in the College of Education officially until you're a junior. You, of course, are students from the very beginning, but you're not officially admitted into the college until you're a junior. And there are a couple of reasons for that. There are some benchmarks that you have to hit in order to go into the College of Education. And some of those are not always the most fun things, like taking a test. I'm sure if you're in a teacher academy, you've heard of the general knowledge test, the GKT. That is a test that everybody in the state of Florida that wants to be a teacher has to take. So that's not just something that FGCU requires, it's everybody. And that general knowledge test, you know, it's kind of misleading because you think, oh, general knowledge, things that I should already know. No, you do have to prepare and study for this. There are going to be things that you don't know or you haven't used in a very long time in school. So you want to make sure that you prepare. And one of the things that is a perk of coming to FGCU is that the College of Education actually provides you with free test prep to take that test. So we don't just, you know, let you swim out there on your own. We help you along. So we are going to provide you with resources. It's up to you to take advantage of those. So that free test prep will definitely be something that you want to take advantage of when you come to FGCU and you are applying for the College of Education. You do have to apply. So you have to submit a form saying that you want to officially be a part of the College of Education and declare your major officially. Okay. So when I say apply, I don't want you to think of this as like a scary application process like you have when you're applying as a freshman to go to college. This is different. We're not trying to reject you, okay? As long as you meet the qualifications and you are going to be a great teacher, we want you in the College of Education. As Michelle mentioned, we have a severe teacher shortage in the state of Florida. Okay, so we are not trying to discourage people who want to be educators from being educators, but there are a few things that the Department of Education requires us to have. So that is an application process. You have to have your general education courses taken, and that's generally for all of our programs, and the GKT for the teacher prep programs. Okay, so with all of that, some programs have prerequisite courses, and I won't go into all of those because it would take me a while to go through every single prerequisite, but depending on the program that you're going into, they may have specific prerequisites, including those general education courses to get into the college, okay? So with all of that, your application is reviewed, and as long as you meet all of the criteria, you're admitted. You'll come to an orientation officially for the College of Education, and then you're going to take, you know, your junior and senior level courses with us in the college. Before all of this happens, in your first year, we encourage you to take what's called Intro to Teaching. So all of you saw Jen on Monday. She actually teaches that course. We have other faculty as well. And that course kind of is your welcome into the education profession. Okay, so you're going to get to go on different field trips to schools. You'll go to an elementary school, you go to a middle school, you go to high school, you go to a private school, a charter school, and a public school. So you'll get really a taste of everything that you could do being a teacher, okay? And so even if you're on the fence, let's say oh, I get a lot of students that say, I'm thinking about psychology, or I'm thinking about teaching, or I'm thinking about social work, or I'm thinking about teaching. Well, the wonderful thing about college is that you get to figure all of that out. And typically students take their freshman year to do that. So I encourage you, even if you're on the fence, take an intro to teaching course. If you don't end up doing anything in education, it counts as an elective. And it's a great course to take because it really does give you kind of an intro to education and dealing with young people, which regardless of what your career is, you're always going to have to deal with young people. So it really is something that you should take if you're considering education or really anything else. So please do that. The other programs will have intro courses as well. So if you wanted to learn more about psychology, you could do that. But please take the intro to teaching profession in your freshman year, because I think it will give you kind of a gateway into what the profession looks like. Now, the programs that we offer in the College of Education, we have something called Child and Youth Studies, okay? And I think this was Noelle yesterday that was talking about Child and Youth Studies. If you are interested in teaching, you can do Child and Youth Studies, okay? But it is not going to get you a direct path to certification to teaching, okay? If you are interested in working with kids and you don't want to be in a traditional classroom, you can do Child and Youth Studies. If you are interested in doing something with youth that may be somewhat related to education, but maybe it's on the psychology side or the social work side, or maybe there's something specific that you're looking for to work with children, you can kind of build your own program with Child and Youth Studies. So what I'm saying is this program is really our flexible program. So you have a lot of options with Child and Youth Studies because there's opportunities for a lot of elective courses that can kind of mold to what you might be most interested in, but it still gives you that foundation of working with children, young people, and education. So Child and Youth Studies is a great program for those students who might not want to work in the traditional classroom. Then we have our teacher prep programs. So you kind of had a taste with Dr. Cooper with our STEM. So she teaches science. So we do have a secondary social science program. And we do have a secondary biology program and a secondary math program. So if you want to work with students that are in middle school or high school, that are in those specific subject areas, we offer those programs, okay? And Dr. Cooper teaches in the biology. She also is the coordinator for all three of those. So if you are applying to a secondary program, chances are you'll meet with Dr. Cooper at some point, okay? Now those are a little bit different programs because they have more prerequisites to get into those programs that are specific to the subject area. So if you are going to do secondary biology, there are going to be biology courses that you need to take in those general education courses your first 2 years that are going to be required for you to go into the program. Okay, same thing with social science, same thing with math. So if you are thinking about teaching a specific subject for the older students, you need to kind of be aware of those courses in your general education classes. Okay, so instead of taking, if you want to do biology, instead of taking marine science, you might want to take biology so that you meet the criteria for the secondary biology program. Now, we also have, which is our most popular program, elementary education. And elementary education will certify you up to 5th grade, 6th grade, just kidding, 6th grade. So what you, the students who are looking to teach really young kids, we also have a program for early childhood education, and they are different, but elementary education kind of gives you the opportunity to teach up to the 6th grade. So if you wanted to teach younger children, it qualifies you to do that, or the older elementary students, it qualifies you to do that as well. The early childhood education certifies you up to 3rd grade. So if you really know you want to work with kindergarten, for example, I get a lot of students that want to work with kindergartners, which they're so cute and, you know, cuddly at that age. But if you know you want to work with kindergarten, you really should go for the early childhood program versus the elementary education, okay? Because where the high need right now for teaching elementary education is the older elementary students like 5th grade, okay? I don't know why people are so down on 5th grade. They're great, but that's where the high need is. So if you have an elementary education degree, chances are you're going to be probably offered a job in 5th grade versus kindergarten, because early childhood educators will be offered that job for kindergarten teaching. Does that make sense? Now, that doesn't mean you can't change around, but typically that's how it's going to be done, okay? Now, we also offer, which you talked to Dr. Balsamo yesterday, special education. Now, this is all age groups up to 12th grade, okay? So if you want to work with students on both sides, gifted and those with learning differences, this is a great program for you. And I hope that the session yesterday really, I feel like she's so passionate about what she does, and I really enjoyed her session. Working with students that have learning differences is a calling, and it does take a certain type of person to have the patience to work with those students, but it is so fulfilling to be able to help students that have, you know, a little bit extra that they need. So if you want to do anything in special education, it does certify you all the way up to 12th grade. So you can work with any age group. And with that, you also have to take certification exams at the end. And with that program, you have to take elementary and special education. So, you know, you are going to be certified to teach elementary students as well as up to 12 with special education. Now, the last program that I'm going to talk about, I feel like I'm like going on and on and on, is our minor. And so students will ask me, I think we had this question earlier in the week, if you wanted to teach English, okay? So if you want to teach a subject area in the older grades, for example, that we don't offer as a program, you can do that through the minor, okay? So the minor is going to offer all of the courses that you need to be a fully certified teacher, and you can major in a different subject area. The only thing that I will stress to you about the minor is that we are not going to require you to take tests like the GKT and your subject area exam. So when you go through the program, you're going to be on your own to make sure that you hit those benchmarks to be a fully certified teacher, okay? The teacher prep programs like early childhood, elementary, the secondary social science, secondary math, secondary biology, and special education, all of those benchmarks are built into the program. So we ensure before you graduate that you've hit all of those things so that when you are done, you are a fully certified teacher in the state of Florida. If you go through the minor, that is not something that we require, okay? You have to do that on your own. So there are a lot of options in the College of Education for undergrad. We offer master's degrees and a doctorate in education. So you can stay with us all the way through your educational journey if you choose to do so. So I just want to let you all know that we offer quite a few different programs for you to choose from. And FGCU, of course, offers tons of programs outside of education, but I am very passionate about making you all future teachers because we need them so very badly. And I know that you all being in this camp, it really shows that you're interested in this profession. So please, 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 please become teachers. If I can't plead anymore, I will say it again, please become teachers. We need you. So I will open it up for questions about the programs. I know someone had a question earlier in the week about prerequisite courses, I think it was. I'm not sure. They're on the call, but I'll open it up for questions. So talk to me, guys. What do you want to know?
I would just type this in the chat, but it's kind of a long question. Okay. So if you, like me, are in a Cambridge program at Estero, and a lot of the tests that you've taken are already going to like qualify you for some of the like basic college things that you're going to need. How does that work with like getting into the College of Education? Like, if I had all my credits done or whatever, could I be able to like get in early? Or like, does it really just go by like all of like the teaching courses you have to take, which I wouldn't be able to do until I got to college?
So that's a great question. So if you have courses that are already completed before you're coming to FGCU that you've taken in high school, so if it's dual enrollment, if it's ACE, if it's AP, okay, if any of those credits are taken ahead of time, you would enter the College of Ed earlier, but you will still have prerequisite courses. So depending on the program, the only prerequisite teaching course that you have to have done is the Intro to Teaching, okay? But depending on which program you go into, they could have other prerequisite courses that you have to take. So for example, biology, right? Secondary biology, I think is 3 other classes on top of that intro to education course that you have to take before you're admitted into the college. Now, this is something that you would work with an academic advisor on, because if there truly is nothing else for you to take, you would work with that academic advisor. And sometimes there's some things that we can do. It just depends on your specific situation, on what courses you need. The reason that we have you take all your general education and your prerequisites before you enter the program is because you're going to enter into a sequence of courses, and internships are tied to those things. And so we want to make sure that students are not out of the sequence, so that the courses are offered for them, that they're going in with their internship. And so, you know, if you were taking courses that weren't in the sequence, let's say you're taking your prerequisite, they may be offered on the days that you're supposed to be in your internship. And so we don't want that to happen. Okay, so we want to make sure when you enter into the College of Education that you start in this proper sequence of courses. Okay, so it really depends on the individual and what courses you need to take. And so that's where the advising session would come in, and they'll work with you and say, okay, this is what we would recommend and how many courses you need before you come into the college. So I don't know how many Cambridge credits you're going to have. Most of the time I see students with about 30 Cambridge credits. If they've taken all of it, that usually come in. So you would still have a couple of semesters, if not at least 1 semester, to take all those prerequisite courses you might need.
Yeah, so like technically if I have, I know I'm going to have my first 2 years of English already done, and at least 1 science and
Mm-hmm.
1 social studies, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then I could technically get into the College of Education early if I'm taking all of those classes that I normally would have been taking sophomore year, if I want to go into early childhood, those
Mm-hmm.
months, freshman year.
So you could enter the college, instead of it taking you 2 years to get all your general education requirements completed, maybe it only takes you 1.5 years or less than that, depending on how dedicated you want to be taking courses. So it's not the amount of years, it's the amount of credits. So typically 60 credits of general education is what is required. So if you already come in with 12 credits or 30 credits, then you would only have the remaining amount of general education to take. Okay. So typically, if you're coming in fresh with nothing, okay, you would have 60 credits takes you about 2 years if you go full time. Does that make sense, Hannah?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? I know that Michelle talked about scholarships, and the Teach grant is great because if you are planning to teach, it is a grant, so you will not have to pay that back. If you don't teach and you don't meet the specific criteria that they're asking for, you have to teach in a Title I school, okay, which if you are staying locally, that's not a problem. We have quite a few Title I schools here locally, but if you're going somewhere else, you just have to make sure that the school that you're teaching in meets the criteria of the grant, okay? But that is a great scholarship because tuition for FGCU is around $6,000. So if you're getting 4 to cover part of your tuition, plus if you have Bright Futures or if you have any sort of other grants or scholarships, that really goes a long way. That's a lot of money, okay? So the Teach grant is a great opportunity. We also have the Florida Fund for Minority Students. So if you want to be a teacher and you fall into one of the categories that are required for that scholarship, that could be another $4,000 to $6,000. Okay, so you want to always apply. Okay, I don't know if they stress this enough. With scholarships, if you don't apply, you will not get it. Okay, nobody is knocking on your door saying they have $10,000 to give you to go to college. And if that happens, I've never heard of it. So congratulations, you must be national science winner or something. But most people, you have to apply, okay? And it's a little bit of a game, right? You have to apply, and maybe you get 1, maybe you get 2. But I can tell you there are a lot of scholarships that are left on the table because students don't apply for them, okay? And even if you meet, let's say you meet 7 out of the 10 criteria for the scholarship, you still apply because if other people aren't applying for that scholarship and they've got to award the money, they might award it to you if you're one of the only students that applied for that scholarship. So apply, apply, apply. And I hear from students all the time, they'll say, oh, well, you know, it takes me forever to apply for these scholarships. You know, it took me 30 minutes to fill out the application, or I have to write an essay or whatever. Well, think about what you would make at a part-time job in high school. Okay. And I don't know how much money you're making now these days as a teenager, but I made nothing when I was in high school. And if I could get $4,000 writing an essay a year, right? That's $8,000 for the Teach grant, let's just say.
That's crazy.
That's well worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot
So
of money.
you wanna apply, just apply. And if you want to stay, both of the students that were on the call today were in Lee County. Lee County has tons of incentives for students, especially if you were in a teacher academy. You can get scholarships if you say go to college at FGCU or even FSW and get your degree in teaching and go back to teach for the district. There's like $6,000 of scholarship per year to help you go to school, just if you're from Lee County and plan to teach in Lee County when you're done. So apply for scholarships. Education, you know, the dean of the college always said, okay, if you want to be an educator, you shouldn't have to pay for college. There are so many scholarships and so many grants out there for you if you apply for them, if you want to be a teacher. So please, 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 I can't stress it enough. I know Michelle talked about it, but I'm going to put the emphasis on it. Apply, apply, apply. Okay. Any other questions, Hannah? Do you have any other questions? I think we lost Inaya.
Yeah, I don't know if she just left or if the call dropped out, but
I don't think so. The only thing, you keep saying Teacher Academy, and I have no idea what that means.
So you're at Estero?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so Estero has, I don't know if it's called an academy, but they have an early childhood program.
Yeah, I've done that.
You were in that? Are you in that now?
Yeah. Well, assuming that they bring it back next year.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you are, that I believe qualifies, but you would need to talk to Lee County about that. So like when we say Teacher Academy, so for example, Riverdale and Ida Baker, they have academies. So you are actually a part of kind of like, I'm trying to think of what academies Estero has, like a medical academy, I think.
Yeah, the only one we have is a medical academy, like officially.
So if you were in that academy, you would qualify for this type of scholarship. So like they have a teaching academy at Riverdale and they have a teaching academy at Ida Baker. However, because they have that early childhood program, that may qualify. So you might want to reach out to the school district.
Yeah, I know it's not like an official academy. It's just like, it certifies you to work at a preschool. So like I have the DCF certification, I have the CPR, you get all that stuff done your first year. So then the next years, all you're doing is designing lesson plans for the kids.
Well, and I believe, so Fort Myers High School has something similar, and I think that qualifies. So you may, so you're the one that's going to be a senior, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to, I have your email. I'm going to connect you with someone from the school district who is in charge of collecting the applications for the scholarships. I'm going to connect you with them because I believe you qualify, and I want to make sure that you at least are considered.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? I know I keep talking about Teacher Academy, so I apologize. You're not in an academy, but you do have an early childhood program there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, there's no way I'm going into the medical academy.
You know, it takes a special person for everything. You know, I was never able to do the blood and guts stuff. So, and I wanted to help people. So I went into education because that's, you know, it fit what I could handle.
Different ways to help different people.
Exactly. I couldn't do, like, if someone started bleeding, I'd be like, I can't handle this, I'm sorry. So, okay. Well, I kind of talked very broad about education and about our programs. But of course, the great place that you can go to find more information is on our website. And I know people keep saying, go to the website, but really, if you are interested in a specific program at FGCU, each program, especially in the College of Education, has its own page that will break down, you know, what the admissions requirements are. It'll break down what courses are required for you to graduate. It'll talk about everything. And in the College of Ed, we have more than just programs of study. We also have other events and things that we put on for the entire university, like the Literacy Festival or like the Mental Health Conference. You know, we have the TESOL conference. So we have other things that we do in the College of Education that are not specifically classes and programs that we offer, but other events and things. So even if you're not officially in the College of Education, you can always participate in some of the things that we have going on. And the easiest way, again, Tim, do you want to plug our social media?
Sure.
To stay up with all the things that we're doing in the College of Ed is, Tim?
To follow our social media. We're on Facebook.
How I found out about this.
Are you following us yet?
Yeah, I am. That's how
You
I
are?
found out about this.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect. Look at that. I know my posts
Love
are
it.
working.
So
yes.
plug your hashtags, Tim.
I would say
your
everybody,
handles.
yes, for everybody else who already isn't following, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at FGCU_COE. Follow us there, stay up to date on everything the college is doing, see what it's like to be a College of Education student.